I was dying.
But Dr. Tom Renfro is very much alive. He has his own medical practice, is an active member of the Freedom of Worship Church in Coburn, Virginia, and is a devoted husband who travels the country sharing his experience about what he calls his miracle.
I'm doing good. I'm feeling good. I don't have any evidence of cancer.
That wasn't the case 17 years ago. Here, you see a man so overtaken with cancerous tumors that he could barely breathe or even move without help. As a doctor, he knew he was physically dying.
He was swollen, bedridden, needed help with everything.
I was already in multi-organ failure. Fluid was already accumulating in my lung.
We gave him steroids, but the steroids at one time did not help anymore. He was dying.
But Renfro's strong faith allowed him to stake his life on God and not on odds and science.
Without the intervention of God, a miracle in my life, that I wouldn't be here.
His wife, Sid, took every agonizing step towards recovery with her husband.
He said, sit down a minute, we need to talk. And he said, I think I have cancer. Well, I didn't have to sit down, I kind of fell down in the sofa.
And then the family turned to doctors.
I fell apart when Dr. Hess told us, basically right off into the sunset on your motorcycle.
You're not going to make it, Tom. That's what he told me. He basically told me that I was going to die.
Renfro took that to heart, but in a different way.
My choice was, I was going to live. I was going to live in the things that God had said.
Months passed and Renfro found himself at his worst.
I was gasping for breath. I had a size 60 waist. And when they did the CAT scan, there wasn't hardly any fluid there. It was all tumor. Tumors the size of footballs.
The doctors told us it is so far advanced that if it attacks a major organ, he has just a matter of weeks, maybe even, to live.
Even with that grim prognosis, though, Renfro's church community and family band together even closer in faith.
We knew we needed to really get in touch with God.
Atop this mountain sits a church where hundreds of people prayed for hours for Dr. Renfro's seemingly miraculous recovery.
Someone prayed, took an hour every day around the clock for 40 days and prayed.
They did an 80-day prayer stint, but really they did about an 18-month overall. The whole community rallied, every denomination, different churches.
Now it was December. Renfro was worsening. Doctors had long given up hope and said it was time for Renfro to be hospitalized. Longtime friend Dr. Jack Cox describes Tom at his worst.
Sick enough to die. Probably should have died. Most people that I saw like him are already dead.
As a last resort, Renfro had a round of chemotherapy to help him live through the holidays.
It was just a matter of probably hours to days before I'd be leaving this earth.
Lord, I ask you to heal him.
Even in the darkest hour, no one lost their faith. And after 3 days in the hospital, much like when Christians believe Jesus Christ rose from the dead, Renfro says something unbelievable happened.
December the 3rd, that's when the tumors melted.
And those tumors melted like wax in the presence of the Lord.
He would say 50 times a day, God's word won't fail. God's word won't fail.
I think it's a miracle that God did in my life. How else can you explain it?
The tumors indeed disappeared and baffled doctors.
The type of tumor he has is the one that really kills.
You would sit there and look at these masses on my neck, and they would visibly be shrinking.
He was back in church just 2 weeks later.
For saving my life, for healing me, for lifting me up when I were dying.
They carried me. I had to learn to walk again. I was very weak. I stood up in front of the congregation. I said, what you're looking at is what you've been praying for. You wanted a miracle of God, and this is what he's done.
But no one knows how unbelievable his recovery is better than those who witnessed it. Do you attribute this to a miracle?
Yes, definitely. It was a miracle.
Is this a miracle?
Do you want a one-word answer? Yes.
I don't have the answers, but I do know this one was a miracle.
When we live by faith, we're not having to face the battle alone.
Let's try it again.
Careful measurements are taken of Chris Walker's arms.
Right there would probably be good. Everything below his elbows is gone, but a specialist is building a set of artificial limbs for him. The process takes several hours, and this isn't the first time he's been through it.
I always break an arm or a piece stops working or something like that.
Walker is hard on his prosthetics.
I'm too rough on them.
He needs a new pair of arms at least once a month.
I got like backups now, so I kind of break 2 things and I'm like, oh, only got 1 left. You gotta take them in to get them fixed.
The frequent wear and tear is a byproduct of Walker's full and productive lifestyle. His favorite activities are things like skiing, mountain biking, and whitewater rafting. Extreme sports most people wouldn't even attempt.
I don't know, it's like my opinion, like, can't get much worse, so why not have fun? Oh. Yeah, there we go.
It's been nearly 2 years now since Walker suffered an almost fatal injury. As an explosives expert in the United States Army, he defused bombs in Middle Eastern war zones. He'd been working in Afghanistan for 7 months when he stepped on an improvised explosive device. To save his life, surgeons had to amputate his left leg and the lower portion of both arms.
When I realized I didn't have arms, I was pretty devastated. Yeah, because I pretty much thought my life was over. Cool.
But life, as he later found out, was just beginning.
Since his injury, Walker has been at the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. Here he's gone through a rigorous process of rehabilitation.
He started by relearning basic things like how to eat.
The first year, you're trying to learn how to do everything over again. And then last year, it's kind of just refining that and making it better.
Getting around is still a challenge.
It's been a long day, not the longest, but...
He doesn't wear a prosthetic leg because the wounds on his hip make it uncomfortable. To move quickly and easily, he uses a modified Segway as a wheelchair. He's also developed a system for accomplishing daily tasks like talking on the phone. He uses Velcro to keep a mobile device attached to his prosthetic wrist.
I use the stylus on this other arm, and then I just put in the code, and I answer the calls, put it on speakerphone, talk to people. And I can send emails and do everything through here, play games, do all kinds of stuff. And then I got my wallet here with my IDs and cash. So I pretty much keep everything on my arm.
Although he does need help with a few things, for the most part, Walker is self-sufficient. He can even drive a car by himself. Since he's able to do most things on his own, his wife Ty is able to work full-time at a nearby Army base. Walker is about to start working again, too. He plans to start a military internship soon.
It's time to get back in the swing of things as opposed to coming to a hospital every day, doing the same thing over again. Yeah, I've gotten pretty good at hopping now.
One day, he hopes to train soldiers on how to defuse explosives, the exact job that nearly killed him 2 years ago. He could have easily left military service behind, but he feels a strong calling to serve. In spite of his extensive injuries, he knows his situation could be much worse. He keeps a memento, the safety glasses he wore on the day of the explosion, as a reminder of what he didn't lose.
It saved my life. It blew the frame away and pushed them into my eyes. Like I got small cuts above my eyes where it actually blew it in. But if it wouldn't have been for them, I'd have been blind.
This is how Deerfield resident A.D. Shinaberry's day started. Tell me what you saw this morning.
My son and I was working over near the turkey house, and we heard this like sonic boom. It went boom, boom, and then a few seconds later we heard another boom, and next thing we saw the black cloud of smoke coming up.
A few hours later, state police confirmed that black smoke was because of the F-15 military plane that crashed. Constantly, since 10 o'clock this morning, there's been people on the ground from federal, state, and local agencies. All indications are the pilot was not with the plane debris.
At this time, we are, of course, working in conjunction to get through the wreckage area and doing perimeter searches for any possible survivors.
The most notable part of this ongoing search is the constant barrage of helicopters performing aerial searches. And this is really what it's been like for most of the day. Helicopters constantly coming and landing on what is a T-ball field. And that's the key, rescue or recovery. For now, the search for the lone pilot in George Washington National Forest continues.
It being heavily wooded obviously makes it a little bit more difficult versus it being open area, but we have a lot of aviation support that have been flying since our first call on this, and we'll continue to do so until we have any other reason to, to move to either to rescue or to recovery.
Of the city of Charlottesville, as you know, has been searched today. Crews hit Albemarle County again. Where they'll focus on next, though, depends on investigative tips from police. This is video shot earlier this afternoon on UVA's campus. You can see that search teams are using dogs and state-of-the-art technology. No massive searches with volunteers are planned this weekend, but trained search teams will be out. The search has not yet stretched to surrounding counties, and search and rescue team leaders say even the smallest shred of evidence could help in breaking this case.
Footprints that are there that may or may not belong to anybody related to the investigation. We're looking for things that may have been dropped on the ground, and then of course we're always on the being vigilant for anything that's out of place.
As you just heard, investigators are asking the public to be extra vigilant this weekend and to report anything suspicious to police immediately. Live in Charlottesville, Nadia Singh, WDBJ7. Taylor Schumann is like any young woman. She's happily married to husband Eric and is a proud Hokie. What sets her apart from others is that she lived through a nightmare.
He shot through the door, and so it exploded onto my chest and my face. It broke basically every bone in my hand.
Schumann remembers the day Neil McInnes opened fire at New River Valley Community College. She was working. A year later, those memories still haunt her.
Nightmares are a pretty normal occurrence. A lot of times I'll wake up and my husband will be waking me up because I'm just crying or screaming in my sleep. It's hard for me to go out in public places by myself. I've left carts full of groceries in the grocery store. Once we were in a parking garage and heard a car backfire, and to me it sounded like a gunshot, and I took cover.
After several painful surgeries on her left hand, Schumann can now do many everyday tasks, but it wasn't always so easy.
And it's been a really hard year and 4 surgeries, and I'm still in occupational therapy. The shock kind of wears off and the cards stop coming in the mail and the flowers die, and you're sort of left alone with this realization that, this is going to be the rest of my life.
But yet, her thoughts stay positive.
It feels really good to say that, I made it through a year. Everyone told me that there's really no reason that I should have survived.
Seeing McInnes in court Wednesday was emotional for Schumann and her family, yet she takes the high road.
The truth is, I feel really bad for him that whatever he was dealing with was so bad that he felt like he had to hurt innocent people. I want to forgive him.